The Galactic Containment. Council's emergency broadcast crackled through every compatible translator in the Andromeda Wing. Commander Vexter's mandibles clicked nervously as he reviewed the incident report for the 7th time that cycle. "Another handler?" he hissed, his scales rippling with barely concealed dread. "Affirmative, Commander," his aide confirmed, her 6 eyes refusing to meet his primary gaze. "Handler Krellix?" Termination was instantaneous. That made 3. 3 of the Council's most experienced Xenofauna handlers, all eliminated by the same creature within a standard rotation. The specimen designated LM7743, colloquially known as Luma, had arrived 6 planetary cycles ago from a death world in the Outer Rim. Its previous caretakers had warned them: apex predator physiology, unparalleled sensory capabilities, and a temperament described charitably as volatile. But the Council had contained worse. Or so they believed. Vexter pulled up the surveillance footage from Krellix's final moments. The Thoraxian handler, standing nearly 3 meters tall with reinforced exoskeleton plating, had approached the containment unit with standard protocols. Luma, barely the size of a cargo container, had been curled in what appeared to be a resting position. Then, in a movement faster than the cameras could fully capture, the cub had struck. Bioluminescent fur had flared with warning colors too late. Krellix never even triggered the emergency beacon. "We need to discuss termination," Vexter began, but his aide interrupted with an unusual breach of protocol. "Sir, there's been a development. A human has requested assignment to the specimen." "A human?" Vexter's translator struggled with his tone of disbelief. "The species barely cleared provisional membership status. They have no certified Xenofauna handlers in our database. This one claims personal experience with similar creatures from their homeworld, Earth." Vexter spat the name like poison. "That backwards, gravity-cursed nightmare of a planet where everything evolved to kill everything else. Absolutely not. Send them away. Commander, with respect, we're out of options. Protocol dictates termination after the 4th handler fatality. We have 6 hours before the Council enforces that directive." Vexter's claws scraped against his desk. The specimen was valuable. Its genetic material alone was worth more than his entire station's annual budget. But regulations were absolute, unless— "Fine," he growled, "but full monitoring. At the first sign of aggression, we flood the chamber with neural suppressants, and this ridiculous experiment ends." Erin stood outside Containment Cell 7, reviewing the personnel files of 3 dead handlers on her datapad. Impressive beings, all of them. Experienced. Careful. Dead. She'd read about Luma's species in the xenobiology archives during her transit to the station. Shimmercats. They were called in the common vernacular creatures from a planet where the atmosphere itself was toxic to most carbon-based life. They hunted in the ionized storms of their world's equatorial belt, using bioelectric pulses to paralyze prey before the killing bite. Beautiful. Terrifying. Misunderstood. "The human handler is entering now," a disembodied voice announced through the observation deck's speakers. Erin could feel dozens of eyes, some literal, some sensor-based, fixed on her as the airlock cycled open. The containment cell was dimly lit, accommodating Luma's preference for low-spectrum light. Erin's eyes adjusted slowly, but she didn't need perfect vision to sense the presence. Luma was there, in the far corner, a mass of rippling fur that shifted between deep purple and electric blue. The cub's breathing was audible, short, sharp exhalations that Erin recognized immediately. Fear. Luma was terrified. "Hey there, Your Majesty," Erin said softly, crouching low and angling her body to appear smaller. She reached into her utility pack and retrieved a length of shimmering silk fabric, genuine earth silk, worth a small fortune this far from home. Luma's breathing paused. The fur patterns changed, curiosity mixing with the fear colors. "I know what you've been through," Erin continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Big scary creatures cornering you, trying to dominate you, making you feel trapped. You did what you had to do. But I'm not here for that." She began tying the silk into an elaborate bow, her fingers working with practiced ease. The motion was rhythmic, non-threatening. Luma's ears, 3 of them, positioned in a triangular array, swiveled toward the sound. "On my world, we have creatures like you. Smaller, but with the same spirit. We learned something important about them. They don't want controllers. They want companions." Erin finished the bow and held it up, the fabric catching what little light existed in the cell. Then she did something that made every observer in the command deck collectively gasp. She turned her back on Luma and sat down, the bow resting in her lap. Minutes passed. Erin hummed an old Earth melody, something her grandmother had taught her. Behind her, she could hear Luma's cautious approach, the slight scrape of retractable claws on the containment floor, the shift of weight. A wet nose touched the back of her neck. Erin didn't flinch. "That's right," she murmured. "I'm not a threat. I'm a friend." Slowly, telegraphing every movement, Erin turned. Luma sat directly in front of her. Those massive amber eyes, each the size of Erin's fist, studying her with predatory intensity. But the fur patterns had shifted completely. Soft greens and golds. Contentment. Trust. Erin reached up with the silk bow. "May I?" Luma lowered her head. Erin tied the bow carefully between Luma's central and left ear, adjusting it until it sat perfectly. The shimmering cub looked absolutely ridiculous, an apex predator wearing formal decoration and absolutely regal. "There," Erin announced, her voice carrying to the observation deck. "I present Her Royal Highness Luma, Princess of the Ionized Realms, first of her name, wearer of the sacred bow." For a moment, silence dominated every frequency. Then Luma did something unprecedented in the Council's extensive records of her species. She purred. The sound resonated through the containment cell like distant thunder, a rumbling that spoke of contentment and acceptance. Vexter watched the monitors, his translator failing to process his emotional state. The human had just domesticated a creature that killed 3 trained handlers. With a piece of fabric and soft words. "Commander," his aide ventured carefully, "your orders regarding the human?" Vexter's claws relaxed against his desk. "Assign her permanent handler status. And someone update our xenofauna protocols. Apparently, we've been doing this wrong." In the containment cell, Erin scratched behind Luma's ears, right at the spot where the bow sat. The cub leaned into the touch, her bioluminescence pulsing in gentle waves. "See?" Erin whispered. "Royalty. Just needed someone to recognize it." Outside, in the cold corridors of the Galactic Containment Council, another truth was being recognized. Sometimes the most terrifying creatures in the universe just needed someone brave enough or foolish enough to offer kindness instead of control. Humanity had just taught the galaxy another lesson. And Luma, Princess of the Ionized Realms, first of her name, wore her bow with appropriate dignity.